time. Okay. Good evening. Welcome to this February 5th, 2024 meeting of the Norfolk City Council. We'll call the meeting to order and call your attention to the Open Meetings Act, which is posted here in the council chambers. If you now please join me in rising for a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please, Brianna.
Greenquist.
Here.
Arns.
Here.
Webb.
Here.
McCarthy.
Here.
Murin.
Here.
Snorton.
Here.
Clausen.
Here.
Hildebrand.
Here.
Okay, with that, I would look for a motion to approve the consent agenda with a couple changes. There has been a citizen request to remove items number 8, 11, and 13 from the consent agenda to the regular agenda.
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
Motion second. If no discussion, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative. Motion carries.
Okay, would then look for a motion to approve the full agenda with one change. There has been a request from the applicant to remove number 27, item number 27 from the full agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve with those changes.
Second.
Motion second. If no discussion, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative. Motion carries.
Okay. We will then move to, before we get into the regular agenda, we will move to special presentations. And we have one special presentation tonight, and that is one of our Distinguished Citizenship Awards. We've done a few of these over the last 6 to 8 months, and tonight we will be honoring Heather, Lincoln, and Brooklyn Wingate with a People Power Award. And People Power Awards are described as such, whereas for their act of distinguished citizenship and good neighborliness, in this instance for orchestrating a fundraiser to pay off negative student lunch accounts, raising over $2,000 in the community. And whereas People Power Awards are distributed to those Norfolkans who, of their own accord, motivated by goodwill and loving and caring for their neighbors as themselves, commit acts of extraordinary thoughtfulness, generosity, and compassion, demonstrating the power of people helping people, neighbor helping neighbor throughout our community. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Josh Moaning, Mayor of the City of Norfolk, Nebraska, along with the Norfolk City Council, hereby recognize Heather, Lincoln, and Brooklyn Wingate for their extraordinary act of citizenship. And so the Wingates, I think they're here tonight. Would you please come forward and receive your awards? You guys want to introduce yourselves? Yeah? No? And Heather. Thank you for being here, and thank you so much for what you did to help your fellow classmates at school. Who thought of this idea? Can you tell me? Yeah? Yeah? How did you come up with it?
We were going to go on a needs stand in the summer, but we couldn't, so we did a fundraiser in the winter. Kids who don't have lunch.
Yeah, yeah. Very good. And how did you raise the money?
By selling cookies and drinks.
That's $2,000. That's a lot of cookies and drinks. Where did you sell it?
Our house.
Yeah. Very good. Well, that is so kind of you, and the words that I just read while you're receiving this award, I think very aptly describe what you guys have done for your friends and classmates. So let's give them a to honor your thoughtfulness and your caring and what you did, we have some awards for you. So these are things that you can keep and hopefully maybe place in your room or at your school. The first one talks about the People Power Award and what it is. And here are individual recognitions. Brooklyn, Lincoln, and I have a feeling Mom had a role for Heather as well. Let's get a picture, okay? You guys look that way?
Thank you so much.
Okay, back to business. All right, with the amendments to the regular agenda, we will begin with item number 8. And that is a report of our January sales tax report of November sales tax receipts. Randy Gates, our city finance officer, could you give us that report, please?
Well, sales tax was up a remarkable 45.38% from last year for the same month. That's almost $450,000. I don't know why that is. Don't get any more information on what's in the agenda packet from the Department of Revenue. And unfortunately, if you call and ask them, they no longer will even give you a clue as to why there's big changes up and down in the sales tax. If I had to guess, and that's all it would be a guess, is there maybe was some big sales tax audit that got paid. I don't expect we'll see another 45% increase next month. I'm guessing this is a one-off item. Sometimes you'll see big increases, but not this big. If a major retailer files late 1 month, you might see a bump down that month and then a bump up next month when our sales tax is doubled up. But this looks like something much bigger than that. And also, we did not have a bump down in the prior month. So I don't have any real, maybe Candace is going to tell us here what happened.
Well, I just wanted to chime in a little bit because we had heard from the Visitors
Candace,
Bureau.
introduce yourself
Oh,
quickly.
Candace Alder, Economic Development Director. We had heard from the Visitors Bureau that lodging tax is also up 30% for that same month.
Do you have any clue as to why that would be?
You know, right now we have a lot of construction happening here in the community, and I know that the Sunset Plaza was on deadline to deliver a white box to their tenants in January, so that could potentially be, I just wanted to contribute that extra bit of.
Okay, thank you, Candace and Randy. I think regardless, 45% is eye-opening. Regardless, I think it speaks to the importance of continuing to be open to new growth opportunities and business opportunities in the community, because as you'll see, as we send out our annual reports in which we detail where revenues come to fund city services, sales taxes, by and large, are our number one source of revenue. So the better the community does, the more economic activity, the more resources available to sustain and improve city services. So it's all good news. Thank you for that report. Any discussion or input?
Jim McKenzie, just one observation, that if you were to front end part of the cost of the police station, just this 1 month increase in sales tax could pay almost the entire annual cost of amortizing that police station over a period of time without a tax increase. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion on this? If not, we will move to item number 11 and look for a motion to consider approval to advertise for bids for the 2 million gallon treated water storage tank project.
I'll make a motion for consideration of approval.
Second.
Motion second. To hear some background on this, we'll hear from Chad Roberts, our Water Systems Director.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. What we have in front of you here is the proposal to consider advertising for bid for the 2 million gallon reservoir at the wastewater treatment plant. This project was noted in the 2023 Water Sewer Master Plan, and we constructed the plans and specs, was approved by you in January 15th of 2023. This tank is actually extremely critical for the operation of the treatment plant and also for the operation of the system in the water system. This tank serves as both a storage tank for both Zone 1 and Zone 2. It also aids in the filter backwash during high peak demands. Currently, right now, we have a 2 million gallon reservoir at the wastewater treatment plant. This tank was built in 1974 when the plant was built. Over the years, we've had multiple renovations at the plant that has increased the capacity of this plant. This is the one item we have not increased since 1974. So it's very critical of what this storage tank can do for the system along with the plant operation. We do have in our CIP $4.5 million in the CIP for the construction of this tank. Our numbers we've gotten today for the concrete tank, which is the primary one that we're looking at bidding, they came in, right now the prelim concrete numbers are 4.2 million. The steel tank, which is the alternate to the concrete tank, came in today at estimated cost of 3.5 million. So we do have the capacity in our CIP to aid in paying for this tank. So our consideration for you is to approve the advertisement for this project. Any questions?
Thank you, Chad. So you mentioned this item is included within the CIP or Capital Improvement Program,
Yep.
which tells me that your department's been thinking about this and planning for this for some time, right?
Yes. Yes,
Can you
and
talk
this-
a little bit about that?
Yeah, so actually, this is the first of probably 4 items that we'll be bringing to the table for you in the next couple of months. Again, this is the first phase with the 2 million gallon reservoir. We've also been planning a plant renovation there on some Zone 1, Zone 2 pumps, upgrades, and then also the collector well with the raw water line. All these items have been part of the master plan that we've been working on that was approved, the 2022 master plan. These are critical items that you're going to be seeing along with this tank for the growth of the system and providing the right reliability of good quality water for our citizens.
Very good. Thank you.
Anything else?
Chad, I'll just ask if there's a difference in longevity of the two differences, concrete and steel.
The concrete's actually a new one that we're looking at. Currently, we have a steel tank out there at the wastewater treatment plant. The one item with the concrete tank is it does require a maintenance contract to go in there and repaint the tank about every 10 years. The concrete tank, it's pre-stressed concrete, has concrete structure with a bunch of steel bands that wrap around it, and then that's shocked with some concrete over top of it to protect that. So maintenance-wise, the concrete has less maintenance in the long term. Longevity, they both should last about the same. It's just the steel has the maintenance component with it.
I gotta ask, do you know approximately what that maintenance cost would be, or would that be in our, I guess, yearly budget that add up to the 10-year?
I can't remember the year for sure. I think it was about 2017, we painted the current tank out there, and it was just about $400,000 is what it took to paint that tank. You know, that's a complete strip down to bare metal, and then they go back and prime it and recoat it.
So that's every 10 years,
Yes.
right? And
Yep.
the 400K is on a lot smaller tank.
Yep.
currently. Okay. So concrete might sound like the right way to go, even though it's higher.
Correct.
It's
Correct.
within the budget, but in the longevity of it, costs us less because your 400K could turn to $1 million every 10 years.
That is correct. You know,
or more.
that's one of the reasons that drew us to this as our primary alternate for this contract, for the bidding, was because of it was taking away that operation, that known cost every 10 years down the road.
Sure.
Anything else? Thank you, Chad.
Yep, thank you.
Any public comment or input? Okay, hearing and seeing none. Moves us to item number 13. Oh, yeah, we still have to vote. Okay. If no further discussion, council, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, motion carries.
Now we can move to item number 13, and would look for a motion to consider approval to advertise a call for artists to submit proposals for the design and creation of an art installation in the roundabout located at 1st Street and Brosh Avenue in Norfolk, Nebraska.
I'll make a motion for consideration of approval to advertise a call for artists.
Second.
Motion second. For some background on this, we'll hear from Nate Powell, our City Parks and Rec Director.
Yep, this is a request from the Arts Council to put out a call for artists for the roundabout artwork. We're looking for some ideas on something historical, something that fits in with the area, fits in with the river area, and the work that we've been doing. This would be 6 foot by 6 foot by 12 foot tall feature of some sort that wouldn't exceed $35,000 in cost. They do have a $25,000 budget, and they still have $58,000 remaining from, I think, CARES Act funds that they have available to them. Any questions that you have for this? Or?
I do have a question. So just reading through your request there, it does look like you're looking for these proposals to be back by June 18th. Is that right? 2024.
Yeah, we were maybe going to amend that and shorten that up a little bit in maybe April. Hopefully have something in by April. But I hadn't had a chance to talk to the Arts Council about it since they submitted this.
So that might be a little shorter.
It might be a
timeframe.
little shorter. Yeah, we're hoping.
Nate, you mentioned the budget at $35K for this,
That's
$35,000, and funding within the Arts Council is around $60,000, and that money initially came from ARPA dollars, if I remember correctly. Correct.
Yeah, either
Yeah.
ARPA or it was before my time. ARPA or CARES Act.
CARES Act, yeah. Okay. Yep.
Yeah, I believe it's CARES Act.
CARES Act. Very good. Okay. Any other questions for Nate? Okay. Thank you. Any public comment or input?
I'm challenged to understand how there's CARES Act funds left when we've done all this other artwork. How did that not get spent when all the other artwork happened? Or do we spend tax dollars first and that gets carried over? I'm curious how that works.
I think Nate would like to address that.
They have $25,000 annually budgeted for artwork in the community, and that's all that they've been using at this point. That $58,000 has been just sitting there, and they haven't come up with a project for it at this point. I'm not sure what the long-term plan is yet, but I'm sure.
Nate, you've had some placements that were made possible by private donations, purchasing the artwork itself, correct?
Yes, I believe so.
I think the roundabout at
We have
7th.
We've done roundabout at 25th Street in Benjamin. We have one coming in Paswalk in 18th. That's the sunflower. That's going to be installed this year. We also did Paswalk in 7th, and then the dog feature that you see at River Point Square as well.
Public Arts Council is made up of how many members? Do you recall off the top of your head from throughout the community?
I want to say 6.
Including Councilman Arns and people who care about arts and beautification throughout the community. Thank you.
So I guess my point would be, you've got $84,000 you budget every year for artwork, and you've been
I'm not sure
spending
that's true.
84. There's 2 different items in your budget. You've got $84,000 annually in your budget for artwork. And some of these, for instance, the owl at the roundabout on 25th, I believe that was paid for by taxpayers. It was the Arts Council, but the Arts Council gets its money from the taxpayers. I guess here's what I want to challenge you with. I mean, we can't continue to ask the taxpayers to pay for all of these amenities over and over again, especially when we're raising taxes and accumulating debt. I would like to issue a challenge that I will donate $1,000 toward this sculpture if the Arts Council or the City Council will fundraise the rest of it and take that burden off of the taxpayers. There's 9 of you here. You'd each contribute $1,000. We've now got $10,000 of that $35,000 cost. It's sometimes easier to spend taxpayer dollars than it is to spend our own dollars. So I would make that challenge. I would contribute $1,000 if you would fundraise those dollars for that sculpture. Any takers? Okay.
All right, thanks, Jim. I think it's convenient now for this space to be a platform for political speeches. But you've seen that our Public Arts Council, I think, has first looked to utilize as gracious donations of private donors for art. I think one of our members would like to, one of the council's members would like to come up and talk about that.
Not on the council. Thank you, Mayor. Carol Gaster. I am the new director of the River Point Creative District, which is a state designation that we have achieved in downtown Norfolk. And I just would like to encourage the council to support this proposal for artists. For one thing, it is a recommendation from your own Public Arts Council that you've empowered to give you recommendations. It is housed, I am not currently on it, but it is a group of great folks who know art well, have really worked in Norfolk to support the arts over the years. And I would take their recommendation if I were one of you. The other thing that this kind of a project does, if your Arts Council went out and said, let's buy one piece of artwork, they're talking to one artist, right? With this program, they're saying, hey, artist, we Norfolk support art, which I think and encourage you to do, right? You're having the opportunity to speak to a large number of artists and demonstrate Norfolk's willingness to support the arts. So it's kind of more bang for your buck because you're putting that out there, which I encourage you to support. It also makes the city a great partner with the Norfolk Arts Center, with the River Point Creative District, and with the other art partners in our community. So I encourage you. Is there any questions I could possibly answer? I'm brand new and have very few answers.
Kara, you've been around this world for a while, and you've worked in various communities throughout Nebraska. Why do you think public art is an important thing in itself?
How long do I get, Mayor Moaning?
Well, we opened up this discussion, so let's
right.
have a discussion about
Well,
it.
I would say this. I feel like the arts are a great, I feel like the arts are a great economic development tool. I have worked for the last 5 years in communities throughout Northeast Nebraska. There are young people, young creatives, who live in these communities, and they are looking for a place to go. They're being told to leave, right? I would encourage us to have them stay, right? And how we're going to have artists and creatives living here and more people here is by demonstrating the example of actually putting dollars in their pockets, right? With a work like this, with a program like this. So I think it's an economic development tool. I think it's a people attraction tool. You know, the state of Nebraska right now has started these creative districts. So there's going to be creative districts across the state. This is a movement that is statewide. This is an opportunity for Norfolk to be a leader in that movement. And I have no doubt that we are going to be. But this is a great way for the city to be a partner with what we're doing.
So fair to say that you consider an initial seeding of money from public dollars that were granted from the federal government for the city to use to encourage more public art throughout the community, and help act as a catalyst for private donations is a justifiable use of taxpayer funds.
I would commend that those are good words, and yes, exactly. And my understanding, and I said I'm relatively new to the position, but my understanding from this is money the Public Art Council has,
Right.
and they're tasked to expend on public art, right? They are going to spend this on public art. This is a great way for them to spend it. I've not been sitting on their meetings, but hopefully I will be, and yeah, I love what you said. If you could write that
All
down
right.
for me.
Thank you, Kara. Thank you.
And then I will sign in. Anything else?
And I respect I respect tax dollars are tax dollars, but these are federal dollars, correct?
Right.
Correct. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to comment on this? If not,
I'd just
and
make a
Scott?
comment
Go ahead, Frank.
on this too. I think the initiative that Mayor brought up with the state, they've created districts now, and they've set aside state funds to help with these creative districts. I mean, it's an important thing, and I do think that you put art out there for display. I do think it strengthens your community's character a little bit. I think it allows, I think it removes some barriers for classes, that anybody and everybody can enjoy the art, especially when it's outside on display. And I think it's a good thing to be able to just take pride in your community. And I think this is one way to do that. I did have a question maybe for Andy. We have 25,000 for an operating budget, right, on an annual basis?
So just for a little bit of context and background, so the original money that was the 58,000 or 59,000, excuse me, that was CARES Act money that was actually allocated, I don't know, 4 years ago, something like that, 3 or 4 years ago. Randy can probably get an exact.
Yeah, I think it's about 3 years ago.
And that money has just carried forward. So that just carries forward year to year to be reserved for art. The 25,000 that you're referring to, that is just general money taken out of our admin budget on an annual basis to go towards for the Arts Council for these kinds of things. I'm aware of a couple sculptures that have been purchased, but I'm not so sure that money's been spent every single year. But that money, it's not like it compounds every single year. So if the 25,000 isn't spent, then it's not spent. It's not rolled over the next year. So, but you're correct. Every year, 25,000 of general money is budgeted for public art for the Arts Council, in addition to the 59,000 of CARES Act, which just carries forward until it's spent.
So we won't stick 25,000 on top of their 58,000 every year. They have to spend that 58 down to receive the 25.
No, there's a.
Yeah, so the 25,000 was a specific one for the Arts Council. That was a council direction that when the Arts Council was being put together to allocate funding for the Arts Council for public art. 59,000 of CARES Act money was even put forth before the Arts Council was even officially created. So that money had already been kind of earmarked for council for public art. So I think the 25,000 was just to continue on the investment in art that the council wanted to see.
And the 59,000 is a one-time.
Yes.
It was seed money, more or less, for the idea of an arts council. And I think it should be noted, too, that it's helped, it's not used in isolation. It helps leverage partnerships such as with the Visitors Bureau that coordinates and funds the sculpture walk, which is not the city of Norfolk. It is the Visitors Bureau that does that, but we do assist in such efforts. I think Councilman Orns said it right when he said this is really about community pride, and Kara mentioned economic development. I think if you talk to a lot of downtown business owners, they're very grateful for such art investments in that district because it's people attraction. It makes the area feel inviting and welcoming, and contributes to people wanting to come spend time and money in that area. And it's activation of public spaces. I think those things are all things that we can be proud of. So Any further discussion?
I just want to clarify a little bit too, on that Public Arts Council, that is not just for downtown. That
Right.
is for the entire city, and specifically like 25th and Benjamin, for example, that owl placement. That is trying to extend that out to every corner of the
Yep.
city.
Good point. Any further discussion?
Well, Mr. Mayor and Council, when 2.5 years, actually 3 years ago, when my family was considering to move to Norfolk, a lot of times what we do in evaluating a town in the city is to look at the arts to see what pride community is going to place in there. Part of that is because we want to be a place where we can live, not just exist. The other aspect is just appreciating that the community, that there's more to life. I came from a community, I was a part of some of their economic planning committees and citizenship groups, and a lot of that city council was risk averse in doing things like arts and doing things that improve quality of life, not just infrastructure. And what ended up happening is they started having a significant brain drain because the city council was not taking things or steps to would make it a good place to live. So one of the lenses that my wife and I have, because we hope to be here for a long time, is that this would be a community that when our kids break our hearts and move out and start their own families, that this would be a place that they would want to live. And so a lot of times, particularly the new sculpture that was put out near the junior high on the roundabout, my wife and I and our family was talking about that it's nice to be a part of a community finally that actually invests not only in their infrastructure, but beautifying and making this a great place to live. So I just want to thank you guys to have art as a consideration and as something as important. And I'm very well aware that there are many other needs in our community, like the police station that needs a lot of work and things like that, but also to make sure that we're not just focusing on infrastructure, but things that are going to make this a great place to live. Thank you.
Thank you, Ty.
Can you provide your name for the record, please?
Pastor Ty.
All right. Anyone else wishing to comment? Okay. Seeing and hearing no one. Council, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, motion carries.
Okay, that takes us to item number 24 on the regular agenda. We'll look for a motion to consider approval for the request of funding for the Northeast Nebraska Regional Land Bank.
Your Honor, I'll be abstaining from this item.
All for consideration of the approval request for the land bank. Second.
Motion and second. For some background on this, we'll hear from Gary Bretschneider, our housing director. Gary.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. I'm here on behalf of the Northeast Nebraska Regional Land Bank as the Executive Director. We had our initial meeting. We were approved and backed by this council in December. We had our meeting January 22nd of this month, and we installed board members, passed a budget, came to the part of where we were asking for funding from the City Council. As we discussed before we got into this stage, there's $50,000 in the budget from ARPA funds that has been earmarked for this project, which we will use to be a startup, and then operational funds, and still go out and solicit others from entities in the communities and other ways we can do that as we go forward with this exciting plan. I think it's a very exciting thing for the city of Norfolk that this has been into play. Taken a long time to get to it, but we're there and ready to go. We have a great board set up. Councilman Snorton is on our board. We appreciate the efforts that he has, and the efforts of City Attorney Danny Noel and Lyle Lutt, Bell Grimes. We've had a great turnout that helped a lot. As you know, our chairman back here, Rob Merrill, he's our chairman of our board. He was elected, so we're being led by a great group. So, and we're here to request that. And I'll answer what questions I can.
Gary, I thought the funding was coming from the Northdale property. That was my original understanding.
No, this is originally from budget 23, 24 budget. This has been in that works. We've also earmarked asking for, when that closes, that additionally would be added to this land bank funds. But the initial out of the budgeting was $50,000 from ARPA
a year and a half, 2 years ago, I think, when we initially started land bank discussions.
That's right. Any other questions for Gary? Gary, you already said it, but I'll say it again. This has been an effort that it's been a long time coming. A lot of work went into it. In fact, I think we're the first land bank outside of Omaha that'll be established. I think there's one in southeast Nebraska, but
They were a week
one other.
They were
Just behind it. Okay. All right. All right. So the first outside of the Omaha area. So breaking new ground, pulling together a lot of very qualified people to help lead this effort. So I commend all the staff work that went into it. I commend all the volunteer hours that citizens are putting into it. Chairman Merrill, thank you for your contributions here. And we're excited to get this started.
Yes, we are.
Yeah. All right. Any further discussion or public input, comment? Thank you, Gary.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
So Andy, when that money becomes available from the Northdale property, will they come back and then ask the council for that money?
That's a good question. Yeah, Lyle's giving me the nod. Yes, it will come back to council for that. I couldn't remember if it was already allocated officially, but sounds like it's not.
Lyle Lutt, Director of Operations here. Anticipate that monstrous period is probably about run, pretty close to it now. A little more time to pass. Expect that to close here in the next couple months. And that same letter that's in the agenda packet right now will be very similar to what you see when that time comes as well, when that closing takes place for the next ask. To address your question, Councilman, as Gary mentioned, the initial ask was $100,000 for the startup for the land bank, year and a half, 2 years ago, or whatever it was. It was cut to 50 with the sale of that land, of the Northdale property, making up the difference when the time came. Okay.
Thank you, Lyle. Any other discussion?
If I may, just so we're clear, because I know that since we initiated these conversations, that was a few years back, and so there's some newer councilmen on. So the ARPA funds obviously came up a few years ago. That was part, and that's been part of conversations at subcommittee level. The Northdale, the sale of that property to help go towards the land bank was also part of subcommittee conversations. So it's not something that the land bank just kind of put our heads together in the last few months and said how can we raise money. Those have been kind of planned out, methodical, and they have gone through some subcommittee talk. Just so everybody knows, it's kind of been in the works for more than just the last few months.
Thank you, Danny. Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, please vote.
Voting in the affirmative, Granquist, Webb, McCarthy, Murin, Snorton, Clausen, Hildebrand. Abstaining, Arns. Motion carries.
Item 25, would look for a motion to consider approval of Sourcewell contract number 081021-CXT for the construction of a restroom and concession stand at Johnson Park in the amount of $265,773.
I'll make a motion for consideration of approval.
Second.
Motion second. For some background on this, Nate Powell once again. Nate.
Mayor and Council, thank you. This is an agreement with CXT for a concession stand and second restroom. It'll also have a warming room in there for kids to put their skates on. This is concessions. It says concessions. It's not food, but rather ice skates for the ice skating at the ice skating rink and sport court for the Johnson Park project. And it'll also have a single family restroom there for the playground area and for that space as well. It'll be split face. It'll look very similar to the current restroom that we have that we built this last year. This is funded through the ARPA grant from the Department of Natural Resources. $300,000 is the all-in budget. We're at $265,773 with this purchase. That'll include the delivery and placement of the structure, and then the remaining funds will be used for the pad and running the utilities to the facility. So it's similar to what we did at the skate park. This is a prefab unit that they just come in and set down. Any questions on that?
Is this located in the northeast corner of the park?
This is adjacent to the sport court. right in that, where the sport court's going. Very close to where the old restroom was.
So about in the middle of the,
I would say where the,
Little-
you know where the gravel parking lot is located on the west side? It would be adjacent to that.
So concessions will be, are these rentals?
Yes,
And we'll have a staff member there?
that's correct. For open skate times, yes.
Any other questions for Nate? Nate, you mentioned this, but as like a series of other improvements within Johnson Park will ultimately be funded by, they were ARPA funds, but awarded to the city of Norfolk through the State Department of Natural Resources. Is that right? Through a grant?
Correct,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
To fund these specific projects, yes.
Very good. Thank you. Any other questions or discussion or public comment on this? Okay, thank you, Nate. Okay, hearing none, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, motion carries.
Okay, item 26, would look for a motion to consider approval to enter into agreement with Bienstock Nature Playgrounds for the design and build of a nature playground in Johnson Park.
I'll make a motion for consideration.
Second.
Motion second, and Nate, you're back. Floor is yours.
Okay. This is a design agreement to design the nature playground. Generally, we don't design playgrounds, but this is a very unique project where we're going to be using real rocks and logs for kids to jump on and play on, and we want to create a safe place within that environment. So this will be a nature playground project. This is part of, this will be a design for our final bid package, which will include our landscaping and irrigation for Johnson Park. This is also funded through the ARPA grant, and Bienstock was selected because of their ability to build and design nature playgrounds and their experience with that. This is part of the ARPA grant. We had $435,000 available in the ARPA grant, available for some signage, landscaping, and the nature playground. The $325,000 is our target for the nature playground, and then also the design funds will come from that as well. Is there any questions?
Nate, when were we awarded that ARPA grant?
Oh, when?
Yeah, have we had that money for a while?
Well, it was last summer.
It was about, yeah, it was about 10 months ago, I think, through the state of Nebraska.
Money just designated for the parks.
This money is designated for these projects. The nature playground was a project within the grant application.
And is this the design and the material?
This $50,000 for this project. $35 is for the design only, and then we'll do a final bid package for Johnson Park. It'll be the fifth bid package, and that'll include the nature playground. But we're also going to be doing the irrigation and any remaining benches or trash cans or anything final that we need for Johnson Park. We'll be putting in that bid package. So when the design is complete, we'll bring up the final bid to council. Request for bid.
Nate, do we have a deadline when this project will be done yet?
Right now, we're aiming for July 4th. We're aiming for it, but there's no guarantees. We want to have it done by the end of summer, but that would include everything, including the irrigation, which is the final pieces of the project.
Thank you, Nate. Any other discussion or comment, public comment on this? Council discussion? Hearing none, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, motion carries.
Item 28 would look for a motion to consider approval of an agreement with Quick Med Claims LLC to provide emergency medical services billing at a rate of 5.15% of net collected revenue.
I'd make the motion, Your Honor.
Second.
Motion and second. And for some background on this, we'll hear from our city clerk, Brianna Durst.
Attached to the agenda is an agreement with QuickMed Claims for EMS or ambulance billing that we have been working toward over the last few months. Currently, the clerk's office handles all of the city's ambulance billing, and we've seen a steady increase in the number of calls for service and bills over the last several years, which has made this task increasingly difficult to sustain with our current staff. Ambulance billing is something we spend a significant amount of time on, so it definitely has an impact on our other duties. Knowing that, several months ago I reached out to other clerks in Nebraska, similar size, to kind of see what their process was, and discovered that we were in the minority for doing ambulance billing in-house. As far as similar size cities go, I reached out to Grand Island, Hastings, South Sioux City, Columbus, Fremont, Scottsbluff, and Beatrice, and found that all of them contract this service out, apart from Beatrice, who has a designated ambulance billing clerk position. I first discussed this subject at our budget review meeting in July, and ultimately the fiscal year 23-24 budget includes a line item for our EMS billing for $85,000. How I came up with that number initially, at that point I had not started the request for proposals process, as I wanted to make sure it was something that was going to be a budgeted item. So that $85,000 is roughly 10% of what I anticipated calendar year 2023 collected revenue to be. So QuickMed Claims fee of 5.15% is great. It's about half of what I thought it might be, and puts us well under budget. To put a number on it, calendar year 2023 revenue was $843,467.12. So 5.15% of that would be roughly $43,000 instead of the $85,000 that we had budgeted. So that item, that amount can be reduced next year.
Great. Thank you, Brianna. Any questions from the council?
I do, Brianna. So this is a billing service, but would they do any type of collections for you at all if there's any delinquency there?
Yep, so we would work with them through those, so they don't initiate that process. They would turn it over to a collection agency of our choosing to use Credit Bureau services currently.
Is this like a year-to-year contract, or how do we entered into a contract?
Yep, this is a 3-year contract, and then we can renew at that point if we want to. I do know Hastings and Fremont this year renewed their agreement. They've both used QuickMed Claims for several years and signed new agreements this year.
Other questions? Brianna, I knew you wouldn't state this yourself, so I'm going to ask, how much of your time, we've learned, as you said, how we were handling this in-house through you is unique to pretty much all our peers in the state. What percentage of your time do you think this took up on a weekly basis?
For myself, probably a day to a day and a half at least per week. And then the other 2 gals in my office spend a considerable amount of time as well, maybe up to a day. But for myself, yeah, a day and a half a week or so.
So that was on top of your regular responsibilities as clerk, which are more than full-time in themselves. So it's the reason that I saw Brianna here after hours many times working on this. So I think this is a very prudent and efficient use of the funds from this account to pay for it, to help save time for the clerk's office to do clerk work. Any other questions?
I think after hours is an understatement. Like sometimes midnight she's here doing this, so yeah.
Any other questions for Brianna or discussion on this? Or public comment? And Brianna, pretty much had to do the work to figure out what contract made sense and which service made sense. So we appreciate the time and effort and diligence involved in that effort as well.
Just really quick, so it's clear to everybody, this was not Brianna driven. She's been working very long hours for a very long time, and a number of us on staff that work with her didn't think it was fair. And so this didn't even come from her. I think a few of us saw 2 a.m. emails and know that she has a family, and we just wanted to know if there was a better way to do things. So that's when she started initiating this research, but it was not driven by Brianna.
Good to clarify. Thank you, Danny. All right, anything else? If not, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, motion carries.
All right, item 29, would look for a motion to consider ordinance number 5868 to delete portions of Chapter 14, Division 2 of the Norfolk City Code as required due to the passage of LB 77 under Nebraska State Statutes 13-330.
I'll make the motion for consideration of ordinance number 5868.
Second.
Motion second. To hear more about this, we'll have Chief Don Miller, the Norfolk Police Division, come forward. Chief.
Mayor and council, as it turns out, this is primarily a housekeeping item. In April 25th of 23 during last year's legislative session, Governor Pillen signed LB 77, which is known as the Concealed Carry Bill. Went into effect September 1st of 2023. Part of the bill under Nebraska State Statute 13-330 prohibits any county, city, or village from enacting, enforcing a local ordinance restricting the ownership, possession, storage, transportation, sale, or transfer of firearms or other weapons except as outlined by state statute. In addition, any current laws that are declared null and void, the discharge of a firearm can still be restricted. The statutory language was pretty clear that they wanted the cities to get out of the business of enforcing weapons violations and to rely on the state statute. The city attorney and I reviewed the LB. We looked at the state statutes that are relevant, the city ordinances that are relevant, and we determined this is the best course of action, just to delete this portion of our code. It virtually has zero effect on our city prosecution because those weapons violations have always been handled through the county level, and we don't prosecute them on the city level anyway, so it really doesn't matter. In addition, the state statute says that we are not allowed to have them on our books anyway. So this is a housekeeping item to clear that up. We did leave the discharging of a weapon in city ordinance, which is specifically allowed by state statute, so that is still there. But this is just to clean that up and delete the portions that are no longer valid. Any questions?
Doesn't look like it.
Okay.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Any discussion on this, council, or public input? Okay. Hearing none. Short title, please.
An ordinance of the City of Norfolk, Nebraska to amend Chapter 14, Article 10, Division 2 of the Official City Code to repeal certain sections related to the carrying of concealed weapons, explosives, and dangerous weapons in accordance with Legislative Bill 77, 2023. To provide when this ordinance shall be in full force and effect, and to provide for the publication of this ordinance in pamphlet form.
Please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, ordinance number 5868 carries on first reading.
I'll make a motion that we suspend the rules and pass ordinance number 5868 on second and third.
Second.
Motion and second to suspend the rules and approve on second and third readings. No further discussion. Please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, ordinance number 5868 carries on second and third.
Okay, that concludes this meeting of the Norfolk City Council. Have a good evening.